Hey there, and welcome back to Edu Steps. I'm Olay Shorunke. Here with me always is my good friend and LYS founder, Festus Amoye, and we're also here with Dr. J. That's right, Dr. Crawford. And today we're going to be talking about something every student has experienced at least once: the dreaded difficult teacher. We've all had one, right? The teacher who seems to grade everything with a red pen of doom, or the one whose class feels like a constant pop quiz. What if I told you that there was a way to handle these situations, not just survive the school year, but to thrive? We're going to dive into what makes a teacher difficult, and more importantly, what you, the student, can do to change the dynamic. It's about taking control and learning some crucial life skills along the way. This isn't about getting a teacher to like you. It's about building a working relationship that helps you succeed, both in the classroom and beyond. Before we get started, just wanted to check up with everybody. Festus, how you doing today, good sir?
Doing well as always. Happy to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful, man. Dr. J, how's it going?
It's going good, man. Happy to be amongst brothers.
Always. It's great to no longer have to say the soon to be officially Dr. J. It's a great, great feeling. All right. So first question I got for y'all is, who was the most difficult teacher you had and what made them so difficult?
I'm going to let Dr. J tackle this one first.
To be honest, I don't think I had a difficult teacher. I think I was difficult as the student. And this is based on my personal experience. I never had a teacher that had a vendetta. I've had teachers that were strict and they had expectations. I did have experiences where there was a lack of understanding, but from my experience and the challenges I had with teachers, it was a lack of accountability on my part, just being honest. That's just my personal experience.
My experience is, sorry.
I was just gonna say real quick, when you hear an answer like that, that leads me to believe that, man, he was giving teachers gray hairs.
Yeah, I was definitely a problem in school for sure at the younger ages. And that's why I can look at it and say, I can see how it can appear that teachers can come off a certain way. But from my personal experience, there was a situation to where I was doing everything that I was supposed to be doing, and a teacher was just being difficult. It was because it was a lack on my part. I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. I was being, I was being unruly in the classroom and things of that nature. But then even up to the later ages when I wasn't like that anymore, let's say like high school, I was level-headed and things of that nature. If any time there was a situation, it was something that I was accountable for. I didn't do the assignment on time. I waited to the last minute, or I missed class, or things of that nature. Those are things that I've done that contributed to the situation. It was very rare that there was a situation where I wasn't accountable for and the teacher just did me wrong.
Gotcha, guys.
I don't know. I mean, since he's coming on with the accountability and the honesty, look, I know I was a troublemaker too, but I was never how do you put this? Never really super nefarious. There's some people who was making trouble to, harm other people and stuff like that. I was more of just, trouble would find me. And I think one of the major things to me is, if you're a teacher who is understanding, flexible, connecting, I pretty much would do the same. And so, like I said, maybe first through third grade, those teachers, there was some resistance. But my fourth grade teacher, I believe it was fourth grade, Miss Jenkins, she was one of the most strict teachers in the school from what they said. But we got along great. You know what I mean? And so, you know, but to your question, Olay, a teacher you didn't get along with, you bump head with in high school, teacher named Miss Aldridge. I'm always remember her name. I'm always told a story. So this particular teacher, things eventually went into a confrontation. Why? Because over 50% of her students were failing. So students talk. You get your progress report, you talk. And a couple of different things was happening. One is that she wasn't recording her grades accurately. And I'll tell you how I found that out. But she wasn't recording her grades accurately. Two, she was not actually doing any form of instruction. She was not teaching us anything. I'll tell you that. So this is how we come into the confrontation. First semester goes by, second semester goes by. This is, again, last year, the senior year, getting ready to graduate. And of course, you need to pass your classes to graduate. And so in her class, first progress report comes by. Oh, didn't do too well. Second progress report comes by. Okay. And again, it's sliding. But as my grades are sliding, I'm like, I look at the progress report. I'm like, yo, I see zeros. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I dig out the assignments, get the assignments together. And I go, hey, miss, that's what every teacher was miss. You gave me zeros for these assignments. Here they go right here with, they were poor grades, but they were there. It wasn't no zero. It's 65, 75, whatever. So, oh, sit down. Why you stand up in my class? I'm like, but miss, you gave me zeros. I turned in my work. But by this time, when I had the conflicts, I already started going to the counselors and saying, hey, y'all need to switch my teachers because this ain't going to work out. Went to the counselor the first time. Oh, no, don't worry. It's just the beginning of the school year. Went to the counselor the second time. Oh, don't worry. You guys just need to warm up to each other. So again, this is the progress report comes in. So we 6-9 weeks or whatever, 6 out of the 9 weeks. So obviously report card, you fail in report card, you can't play football, all that good stuff. And so in this case, I go up to her. I'm like, hey, she's like, oh, go sit down. You're not paying attention, this, that, and the third. So anyway, so I take the progress report, put my stuff together, put it under my desk, sit down, start doing my work. Then she, probably about 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, she said, hey, bring that stuff back up here. So I go to start looking for it. And I'm like, man, I know I put it underneath my desk, but maybe I put it in between papers, because I started working again. And then she made a statement. She said, that's why you're failing my class. You're disorganized. And that just flipped me up. That just took me to the limit. Well, for me personally, at that time in high school, I'm living on my own, no parents. I'm managing an apartment. I'm working, trying to make it through school, and I'm also trying not to, turn to the streets, all this other stuff. So I flipped out, and, unfortunately I cussed her out. I said, you're saying I'm the person who's disorganized. You can't even put in grades right. Part of it was she was letting students put in grades, which come to find out later, that's illegal. She's not supposed to do that.
Hey, LYS fam, it's Olay once again. These days, many families are busy, but want personalized attention. We at Laddering Your Success understand this dilemma and have created a unique approach to help guide you and your child with personal development tools to build a life of purpose. This intimate approach is helpful for those parents that feel the need to have a focused heart-to-heart conversation deciding on the next steps after high school. We provide individual post-secondary planning, virtual customized college and career counseling, and scholarship guidance and planning. Our one-on-one sessions are tailored to each individual student to maximize their potential in the post-secondary realm. With our guidance, your child will be able to make their dreams a reality. Don't wait. Simply go to lys.com/parents to get your copy today. Now let's get back to business on this podcast.
Next thing she says, it's not my job to teach. This is what she said verbatim. It's not my job to teach you. It's your job to come in here and learn. So I was like, how are 50% of your students failing? And everybody knew it. So at this point, I did turn the stuff back in, but I just walked out the class. I just went straight to the principal's office and turned myself in, because I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming next, right? Long story short, regarding that, I did have my classes switched, partially because I guess she made it seem like I physically threatened her. I did not physically threaten her. But yeah, you get those teachers that are disconnected from students and what students are going through. Not once at all during the semester, even though I lost my parents my freshman year of high school, not once did she ever, question what's going on at home. Not once did she ever question, anything about me as a person. And so there was a total disconnect there. And I think that was the same throughout all of her students. Just she was there for a paycheck. She would steadily say this on, oh, I can't wait till I retire. I can't wait till I retire. And so that was probably my most difficult teacher. Came in a teacher who gave more work and more rigorous work. Mr. Tekmansky, shout out to Mr. Tekmansky, one of my favorite teachers of all time. And yeah, and I was able to pass and graduate. So I'll end there, but yeah.
So was it from Miss Aldridge that you got moved to Mr. Tekmansky's class?
Correct. So what happened after the incident, I was suspended. I was put in a sack. No, I was put in a sack for 3 days. They gave me, in school suspension for 3 days. And because I had already started developing that track record with the counselor, this is all stuff that was happening behind the scenes. I would go to the counselor and show the counselor my work. And she would look over my work because she used to teach English too. And she's like, I don't see why you got this grade here. I'm like, I don't either. You know what I'm saying? I did what the thing asked. And the counselor already knew, like, you're saying this thing, you're saying that thing, but it wasn't until things boiled over. And I think that's what happens when we systematize and institutionalize education so much that we disconnect the relationship between the students and the teachers. This is the being and being, knowing, doing. If you're not looking at, I'm connecting with a human being who has thoughts, emotions, feelings, more than that, has intellect, has desires, and you can't register with any of that that's going on with that student, I think you're going to end up having conflict, and vice versa. Because, this is life. Certain personalities just don't work well together. You know what I'm saying? And I do think it's let me go and stop there. Go ahead.
No, I love what you said, because basically the last part of what you initially said, Festus, is it aligns with a lot of the research, right?
Hey, LYS fam, it's Olay. Thanks so much for listening to LYS. I just wanted to take a quick moment to talk to the parents. That's right, mom and dad. Parents, prepare your child for their best educational fit after high school with our comprehensive LYS Parents Guidebook. Our helpful guide includes a range of activities designed to help you better understand your child's unique gifts and abilities. Additionally, we provide valuable insights into the student loan debt crisis and offer practical tips on how to avoid accumulating large amounts of debt. Our ebook also includes a wealth of information on scholarships, grants, and payment exemptions that can help guide your child towards a bright and successful future. With our expert guidance, you can rest assured that your child is well prepared to make informed decisions about their education and career path. Don't let your child's future be in jeopardy. Invest in their future today by downloading the LYS Parents Guidebook. Simply go to lys.com/parents to get your copy today. Now let's get back to the show, because it's some good topics.
And so we'll probably use that story as kind of the case study of what we're going to base everything on. And then, of course, we'll incorporate be, know, do. But the first thing we're going to talk about is decoding the difficult teacher, right? Is your teacher the villain, or is there something more going on? So let's look behind the curtain. Why do some teachers seem difficult? A lot of times it's not personal. It might be due to a combination of factors, many of which have nothing to do with you. For example, over half of K-12 teachers in the U.S. report feeling burnt out, which is the highest rate among all occupations. I believe I was listening to the sermon today from the pastor. He said Americans love to be number one, and we are number one in regards of stress. So he was like, we're on pace with us wanting to be number one. In the world, it's a 35% of people who deal with stress, but for Americans, it's 55%. And then on top of that, the most stressful profession that seems to be burnt out are teachers. They're dealing with immense stress from high workloads, administrative pressure, and a lack of support. The average teacher works 53 hours a week. That's average. Average teacher works 53. So the average teacher is already working over the recommended or the standard 40-hour week, right? That's average. That means many teachers work much more than that. And many have to take on extra duties due to staff shortages. So when a teacher seems moody or overwhelmed, it might be because they're emotional. And I added these next two: physically and mentally exhausted, right? Those are the two that I really think are also like exasperated or leading to a lot of the stress that teachers deal with. So understanding this can shift your perspective from a student saying they're picking on me to maybe they're struggling themselves, right? So of course we want to be solution oriented. What's the first step for a student, right? The first step is to advocate for yourself. This isn't just saying it just to say it, right? It's a really important skill. Self-advocacy, just like Festus did, just like what you did, Festus, means understanding your own needs and speaking up for them in a respectful way. It can be as simple as changing your mindset from I don't get it to I am confused about this part. Can you explain this again, right? So my question for the squad is, what is the single most important thing you can do to turn a difficult class into your best class, right? And if anything I said before kind of sparks something, we can definitely open that conversation to that as well.
I mean, to turn things around, I would say the most important thing is to, one, strive to be able to communicate. The things I look at in that situation that I did well was the fact that I built relationships with the counselors. You know, once I started to see things going downhill, I might not have had all the words necessary to explain my situation, but I strive to just try to build some communication. And by demonstrating to them, the counselor particularly, that, hey, this guy is trying, you know, and that counselor understood my situation in regard to parents and stuff like that. But so did the principal. And the thing is, the reality is, as a student, there's certain things in your life that are going to happen that nobody can change. You know what I mean? Not even switching teachers can change. And nobody's perfect. So I'm not saying that, hey, you need to, you know, just keep switching teachers. No, some of the things you need to mature through. But you also need to understand when you're feeling resistance and reluctance, and a person who just is not working with you. I'm not saying, hey, you don't want to turn in your work, none of those things. If you're being accountable, you're being responsible, communicate well, that's going to be one of the first things you can do to, you know, create a positive impact.
I think I'm gonna come at it from a different angle than Festus, because that was a good point of view he came from. So I'm gonna come at it from a different angle. I'm gonna say, try to be more understanding, seek to understand. And when we're trying to seek to understand in certain situations, that actually will give the students the answer of how to handle that situation. And the reason I say that is because the teachers that we're talking about, the difficult teacher, to many students, I'm probably most likely, definitely that difficult teacher. And that's because in some of the students that I've experienced, it was a lack of understanding. They didn't understand the why. I was a teacher who was very strict, but had high expectations because I demanded the best from my students. And I also held each and every student accountable. I'm very clear with expectations, instructions, guidelines for them to be successful. But as much high expectations I have for them, if they fall short, I will hold them accountable, nor did I give leeway. I had straight A students fall off and do certain things that was questionable. I held them to the same standard of other students who were struggling. And many of my colleagues questioned, why would I do that? And I'm like, because consequences are consequences. There's no favoritism. I hold everyone to the same high expectations. And so there was many students who did not favor me in that way, but they also didn't understand. I just wanted the best for them and wanted to pull out the best in them in every aspect of their academic journey. But I think for the students, it's real important to seek to understand. Try to have a conversation, ask the teacher, if you guys, when you have available time, can we have a conversation? There's some things I would like to talk to you about. I'm going to say most times they will try to do that when they have the time available. Now, it might not be at the time that you want or anything like that, but most times they will do that. And that's an opportunity for you to respectfully advocate for yourself and share your questions and concerns.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think students try to understand the teacher's perspective. I'm not saying that in any way, shape, or form, but for this particular person, and obviously you can still hear the emotion 20 years later. For this particular person, you know what I'm saying? She was disconnected. And to me, that's the first part of being. Being, there's a saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And part of what that saying kind of implies is that the lesson or the curriculum to life is already there, that you just need the right teacher. You just need the right influence. And I think sometimes that becomes the impediment is, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, your little cousin or your child or something, you tell them something, they don't listen. Somebody else tells them the exact same thing you said. And then it's like, oh, wow. And it's like, but I think sometimes we're attuned to certain things. And so to me, being open and trying to understand where that teacher's come from is key too, and I love the fact when a student says, hey, Mr. or Miss, what's going on in your world? Let me hear a little bit about what's happening with you. I think that's super key too, because some teachers feel on an island, man. They feel burnt out. And not only are they burnt out and stressed out, they think they're going to lose their jobs. They think they're going to lose their minds. They struggle to pay bills because it's not enough. And, so there's a lot that teachers go through too, so I think students, the more you can appreciate that the same way you are a person, they are a person. And there should be avenues of mutual respect. But also in America, we just don't respect our educators enough. We don't respect the profession enough sometimes. So I'll kind of on that.
Man, great points. Reminded me of South Park, where Cartman kept saying, respect my authority in regards to respecting your teachers or educators, especially in America. Man, thank you both for those points. So powerful. Oh, man, I had a really good thought and then it went away.
Well, while you're thinking of that thought, I did have something. I think that first I want to say, Festus, my statement had nothing to do with your personal statement. That was based on like my experience I was trying to change from a different perspective from being the bad guy, being the bad teacher. So that had nothing to do with your story. But I did want to say for teachers that do respond in your case, like what Festus shared his personal experience and other teachers that I've witnessed as colleagues, we tend to take things personal, right? It's like, how dare he challenge what I'm doing? Because therefore, that means I've done something wrong, right? As the teacher. And I feel like as teachers, we need to be understanding of the students as well. Like Festus had whatever he had going on personally. So he had things riding on his grade. So it's very important for him to understand what's going on and get to the bottom of that. And us as teachers, we got to not take things personally and try to understand the students. Like if a student come into class and they have an attitude, that attitude has nothing to do with us. That probably is something that transpired outside these classroom walls. So if we take that personally and we respond personally, that's where that disconnection happened. Hopefully, Olay, there was enough time for your thought to come back around to you.
Yeah, you would think. No, I'm just kidding. It did. Thank you so much. No, it did. It actually reminded me of my first year of teaching. I got really stressed because I was trying to be I was too lenient. I didn't have really good control of the classroom. And so as I was becoming a little bit more strict so I could gain more control of the class and kind of rein things in, the students, they reacted. They were like, because my class was cool because they could be loud and they could act a fool. And as I started to rein it in, they didn't like that. And I took things personally. I kind of turned my back on the students. And I'll never forget, I had that moment where I just called them all in and I was like, look, man, let's talk. Like, what's going on? Like, what can we do to get back on the right track? And the students told me straight up, they were like, and I remember doing this purposely, but the students were like, man, it's just like, you don't respect us anymore. Like, we come in, like, even when you fist bump us, you don't really fist bump us like you mean it. You just fist bump us just to do it. And we want to be respected too. And we had a conversation. We had a real, honest conversation. And I had to tell them, like, all right, now I respect that, but this is a place of learning. And you can't come in here talking, disrespecting. You can't expect me to want to have that same energy to teach if y'all are coming here being disrespectful. Now, granted, of course, it's all on me to make sure I have, control of the classroom and stuff like that. But it was great to just to lay that out and have those honest conversations. And then that's when I really learned the importance of teachers establishing really strong STRs, like student-teacher relationships. And with some of the studying that I was doing in preparation for this, I was noticing that, the data shows that the stronger the relationship is between the student and the teacher, there's going to be better conduct, there's going to be better grades, there's going to be just better overall performance from those students in those classrooms, just by asking the questions of like, hey, how's it going? Hey, what's going on here? What's going on there? I remember my first year, I had a student who was really rambunctious. And I love the fact that I was close in the community. And so sometimes when my parents would shop, I would see the kids. And so I saw that same student at the Family Dollar. And he was in the car with his mom and his little sister. And we all said hi. And just that moment right there just changed so many things. I asked him how things are going with his stepdad. And he was telling me things are going a little bit rough. His stepdad is very strict. And, he was just kind of dealing with those things. Relationship just starts to change just like that. So, and I say that so we can kind of go into the next point here, which is the art of strategic conversation, right? We're talking about students and how our students can relate and really have these conversations with our teachers. So you shifted your mindset, but now what? How do you actually talk to a teacher about an issue? It's not about whining or complaining. The key is to be prepared. The first thing you want to do is you want to find an appropriate time to talk to them, either before or after school, or if there's a time where they say they're free, talk to them. When I was in high school, I used to talk to my teachers either before school or right after school before I went to football practice. I wish I would have did that a little bit more. I maybe would have had better grades, but that's a different story for a different day. Of course, you want to be calm and professional. Festus went and talked to that teacher the first time. He was calm. He was professional, right? The goal is to get information. You're trying to get information. You're not trying to accuse anyone. Remember, teachers are humans too. So they may take things personally, especially when it comes from a student, right?
Hey, LYS fam, it's Olay. If there's one thing I love, it's something free. I'm talking free 99, un gratis. No shipping or handling fees, no gotcha fees, nothing like that. With that being said, if you're graduating soon or thinking about college or need a nudge or help to decide, then our free ebook, 10 Things to Think About Before Going to College, has a very balanced and open-minded way of presenting your next steps. It captures broad topics in a personal way by giving students an insightful, interactive, and reflective source of inspiration. It is very beneficial to be able to visualize some of the concepts after high school and apply them directly to you. We all know life, college, and career planning decision-making choices for students can be challenging, especially as they near the completion of high school. This book will provide you with a self-paced guide to your success beyond academics and into real life. Not only is it free, you can complete this book within a week. This will definitely prepare you for long-term success. To get your free copy, simply go to lys.com/students. I mentioned it was free, right? Well, if I didn't, it's free. Like for real, for real. Okay, back to the podcast.
So quick example, like what if you think a grade is not fair? You should have got a better grade on a particular assignment. Don't start with why did I get such a bad grade? Instead, try and say something like, I was a little surprised by my grade on this assignment. Could you help me understand how you came up with that grade and what I could do to make it stronger? This shows that you're taking responsibility for that grade, but you're also asking what needs to be done to improve that grade so you can get a higher grade. Now, if a teacher is still difficult to do that, this is where it's important to do something else that Festus mentioned. Going out and creating that community, right? Other teachers, counselors, your parents, family members. If you're in football, the coaches, extracurricular activity like band, orchestra, choir, get those teachers involved. Start to create that community of people to say, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. What should I do? What could I do? Right? I'll leave it up for the squad. Do y'all have anything else y'all wanted to drop in regards to that as far as how to approach a teacher? Because I think that's a big thing. I remember talking to some of my former students and I would ask them, hey, are you doing AP or are you doing, what's the other one that they do besides AP in high school now? It's AP and
dual credit.
Yeah, thank you, dual credit. And a lot of my students said they preferred AP over dual credit. And I was like, why? And they were like, well, the dual credit teachers are difficult. That's the paraphrase version of what I got, right? They're difficult. And I'm like, but dual credit is college credit. I know you get something for AP, but I would think, man, you want that dual credit because that's money you're saving when you get to college. So I would love to get y'all's input on that. What are some other things students can do to help having those conversations with students? Because, and I'll say this, but I want to make sure I say this before we go. You got to remember, we're asking 8th graders who are now going into high school to start making these major life decisions, right? They're going from a place where most things were still being done for them to where it's kind of like, all right, here you go. You're going to go to this place with other people who are basically almost adults. And we want you to start thinking about college. We want you to start thinking about your future. We want you to start thinking about this and like that and all this and that. And it's like, man, I still don't know how to wash behind my ears. I don't know how to brush my teeth properly. I still play with toys. Go ahead.
Well, I would say this much. Part of it is that we have created this thing called adolescence, which is not necessarily true, right? And so what has happened, particularly in the West, if you look at other major societies, usually you're considered an adult by about the age of 13 to 16. Quinceañeras, bar mitzvahs, you have different rites of passages that indicate adulthood. You see what I'm saying? But all of those rites of passages, the rite of passage also prepares you. And that's what's missing in the West, because for us in the West, you're 18, did you graduate from high school? You're an adult. And so there's not really a preparation process for a lot of these young people. So a lot of the developmental milestones, how to not just talk to an adult, but deal with somebody in authority, how to manage yourself and be self-aware and emotionally aware. They're missing a lot of those things, and so unfortunately this increases the burden on the educators because everybody said, well, the teacher's supposed to teach them. Well, in reality, you're supposed to really learn those things from your parent and from your village. Whether your village is in a church or in a mosque or wherever it is, you're supposed to come into contact with adults on a regular basis that tell you, don't do this, do that. And that's what we had in the 80s, all through the 80s and 90s. And if you go back 30 years, we had that. And so when you're coming to an adult now, you want to really be able to be primed for that conversation. You want to also, what I mean by primed is, don't come in emotionally charged. Make sure that hey, we've had open discussion about these things already. You know what I'm saying? And just like you said, that little, right before class or right after class or right before school, right after school is very helpful, because now the teacher will begin to get to know you. And Miss Nowlin, I forever remember Miss Nowlin. I'm probably accentuating her name, but this was the teacher that all the male students was.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so it's like, hey, yeah, I want to talk. Let's just come on, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, boy, shut up, sit down, And the reality is, just having some of those kind of, hey, before class, kind of joking, bantering, you know what I mean, help start building, establishing relationship. Whereas like her having a draw line, listen, young man, that's inappropriate. This is inappropriate. Don't even look at me. Don't even look at me that way. That look is inappropriate. You know what I'm saying? Like, those things help to take what's out in the community and what young men are experiencing and they're trying to bring into the classroom and set it straight. And then you had a very professional relationship, going forward. And I think that's kind of what's missing nowadays. So you might want to, practice with your aunt, your uncle, your cousin, your unc, practice those conversations. Hey, listen, I'm struggling with this. Talk with them. Be open-minded to receive feedback. Don't go to people who are biased. Okay, listen, enough of that nonsense. Everybody, oh, that's my baby, so she can't do no wrong. It's nonsense, and it's going to hurt your life later when you grow up. Trust me when I tell you that. Okay, but I'm gonna stop soapboxing. Go ahead, guys.
You got any comments on that? You got any input, Ben?
I would say the one of the things that you shared, Olay, was asking the students why they preferred AP over dual credit. And that's real interesting, because when we look at the breakdown of the difference between those classes, AP courses are supposed to be more rigorous, whereas dual credit courses, those are just courses where you get college credit. And when they were saying that the dual credit teachers are difficult, I can understand from a teenager why they would make that statement, because as a dual credit teacher, it's different. Dual credit teachers do not operate under the same guidelines as public school teachers, because now you're taking a college level course. And so this is where students have to understand the difference. And I think Festus touched on this a bit. So as their students in public school, there's a lot of, and I'm going to say that, and I mean all due respect, they're babied, because there is a lack of accountability. And the college system, or when you're taking a college course, all of the responsibility is on the student. And the teacher is, hey, here is the syllabus. It is your duty to read that syllabus, because this is basically our contract. This is when the assignment to do. I'm going to come in, I'm going to teach, lecture, whatever that instruction may look like, but it's your responsibility to complete said assignments by the due date. And if it's in my syllabus that I don't have to do, that I'm not doing accepting late work, then late work will not be accepted. And so in case of situations, because things do happen, life does happen, students are then required to be responsible to communicate with the teacher beforehand any situation come up, so the teacher instructor is aware, so they could give them that grace for said situations. But if you come up to me and you're having an emotional conversation, which Festus briefly described, hey, I don't have to change your grade because in a college level course, my job is not dependent on how many people pass my class like in public school. I teach the content. You are held accountable. If you don't meet certain standards, I don't have to work with you. And so that's where it could come off as dual credit teachers be kind of like tripping. So yeah.
I love that input. I love the input because it connects exactly with what Festus was mentioning about maybe basically students being babied. And I think that's what you're referencing. So I love that. This is so good. So now when I have another student that comes and tells me that, I'm going to tell them, I know exactly what I'm going to tell them. You got to grow up. You got to grow up and you got to learn how to do it. Go ahead.
And see, one more thing, see, with dual credit or college level courses, your parents can't come advocate for you, like in a public school situation. That there's no, if a mother comes to me and try to say something about Johnny, that it has no pull.
That reminds me of that Shannon Sharp joke. Y'all remember that Shannon Sharp joke where he was talking about, he was in class and the kid's name was Johnny. And the teacher was trying to help him out. And she said, Johnny, it sounds like, and he couldn't get it out. He's like, sounds like. And Shannon Sharp goes, it sounds like Johnny can't read. And she said, Shannon Sharp, get out of my class. So, I'm sorry. Oh, man. All right. So, man, one wonderful discussion. I love this discussion. Great input just talking about teachers and what students can do to help navigate this. Me personally, I love kind of what both of y'all were alluding to. Gosh, I want to be respectful. Students got to learn how to be, you got to learn how to be adults. That's what this process is about. This process is about having these tough conversations. A lot of times taught how to do that. We're not taught how to have a tough conversation. I would say if you don't know how to or what to do, just be respectful, right? Just talk to someone the way you would like to be talked to and just look for that common ground. But when I think about myself when I was in high school, if there was one thing that I was lacking, it was definitely maturity. So I could definitely see how this could be very, very helpful and pertinent, especially today where students have so much, but they're probably, I think I'd say the average student is definitely far off in regards to as far as maturity is from where we were. Now, I think those students that are really mature are definitely, they're right there where we were or a little bit more mature, but the average student seems like they're a little bit more baby than we were. So just one of those things we got to continue to look for, continue to work on. Of course, think about being, knowing, and doing. What are those valuables, those values? What are those principles? What are those characteristics of someone who is able to have those conversations? What are those? What are those values? What are those principles? What are those characteristics, right? Where are my resources? Who are the people? What are the resources around me that can help me get to that point where I'm more mature to advocate for myself, to be able to have these conversations, right? Either with my teacher or with the counselor, the principal, the AP, the band director, the coach, the orchestra director, the speech and debate teacher, right? And how do I execute? How do I execute this plan to a place where I'm able to do this with excellence, right? Or you're growing to be able to execute with excellence. So some of the things I want y'all to think about. Anyone, any closing comments or anything you want to drop off before we close?
No, this is a great episode.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, folks, remember, we're here to help you navigate these challenges, right? Be sure to send us an email at info@ladderinyoursuccess.com if you're interested in joining our WhatsApp group. Parents, we have a parents group. Educators, we have an educators group as well. So please, info@ladderinyoursuccess.com. Please also go to ladderinyoursuccess.com for more info on our in-school sessions, our workshops, and our suite of ebooks and other resources and information that we have for you. Remember, dealing with difficult teachers is about learning to manage a situation, the skills, knowledge, and your future career. Remember, you've always got this. Folks, this has been Edu Steps for Dr. J. I'm Olay Shorunke. Until next time, walk in purpose, explore your world, and level up in your life. Festus, hit us with the phrase that pays, my good sir.
So listen, there are legitimate excuses for not going to college. There's no legitimate excuse for not getting an education. If you like what you heard today, go ahead and hit the like button. If you know somebody who needs to hear this, hit the share button. And you definitely want to hit the follow button for the next episode. And we'll see you there.